With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
It's only a kick, a jump, a block. It's only a serve. It's only a tackle, a run. It's only for the fans. After all, it's only pressure. You got this. Adidas.
This episode is brought to you by Hyperice, the leader in advanced warm-up and recovery technology. They have tons of innovative products, like Venom-heated wearables to help soothe sore back muscles, Normatec compression boots to speed up recovery and increase circulation, and Hypervolt massage guns to improve mobility. Loved by athletes like Naomi Osaka and Erling Haaland. Try them yourself. Get 10% off your order with the code MOVE at hyperice.com.
Stephen Krajcik of the Lotto Jumbo team as well, and Adam Yates of Orica Green Edge, and Anthony Turgis, who had a little bit of a tumble as he headed in towards Scarborough but stayed on his bike. Great Britain have won their first medal. It was Adam Peaty in a world record time, breaking his own world record. She punches the air and she crosses that blue finish line. The world champion of 12 months ago, who finished second here last time around, has won it.
The athlete's village is not a place for fighting. I've never heard that ever in Olympic and Paralympic history.
This is Anything But Footy, the Olympic and Paralympic podcast, covering the games all the time, rather than once every 4 years. I'm John.
And I'm Michael, and this is a special edition covering the breaking news that the 2026 Commonwealth Games is without a host after Victoria sensationally pulled out.
More on that coming up. You can get in touch, have your say. What is the future of the Commonwealth Games? You can track us down, Anything But F on Twitter, Anything But Footy on Facebook or Instagram or Threads, and you can check out the website and make contact via that way. Anythingbutfooty.com. Anythingbutfooty.com. Now, Michael, you're actually on holiday at the moment, not in a Commonwealth country, but what's happened?
You're right, I am on holiday at the moment, but I didn't want to miss this. The breaking news that the 2026 Commonwealth Games must now be in doubt. Victoria has pulled out. They've said overnight they have cited budgetary concerns. Remember, they were only announced as the host back in April 2022, but the Premier of Victoria, who is Daniel Andrews, said that although they were happy to help out the Commonwealth Games Federation, who were scrapping around at the time trying to find a host city, they said they won't do it at any price. Now, the cost has tripled to around about 6 billion Australian dollars, and Daniel Andrews has said in the statement and the press conference in Victoria that that was more than twice the estimated benefits. For the Commonwealth Games Federation, this comes as a huge blow, as I'm sure you can imagine. Victoria organisers said that they'd looked at all options. They'd looked at Melbourne potentially hosting the Games on its own, but they said they could find no way through.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned those numbers, Michael, 6 billion Australian dollars, because in a statement from the Commonwealth Games Federation, who say they are hugely disappointed for the Commonwealth sport movement and for the athletes right across the Commonwealth, that they don't recognise those figures. They say the reasons given are financial. The numbers quoted to us are 50% more than those advised to the organising committee back in June. So that's not long ago. These figures are attributed to price escalation, primarily due to the unique regional delivery model that Victoria chose for these games, and in particular relate to village and venue builds and transport infrastructure. It says the government has made decisions to include sports and an additional regional hub, change plans for venues, all of which have been added at considerable expense, often against the advice of the Commonwealth Games Federation and the Commonwealth Games Australia. They say we're disappointed. We've only been given 8 hours notice, no consideration given to discussing the situation, And I think that's the thing that leaps out to me. No consultation at all on this. They've just decided to pull out. Up until this point, the government had advised that sufficient funding was available to deliver the Victoria 2026 Commonwealth Games. Now, they say they are taking advice on the options available to us and remain committed to finding a solution for the Games in 2026. I'm sure the lawyers are looking at it because, remember, this whole situation was only confirmed not that long ago. To be honest, it was February 2022 where Victoria confirmed they were in exclusive dialogue to stage the Games. By April 2022, so only last year, Victoria confirmed as the hosts. They took the baton from Birmingham in August 2022. And then, as they've said there, they were praising Australia, the state, following a 3-day visit in April this year. And then even in June this year, the Commonwealth Games Federation issued a new strategy saying they would be looking at more multi-country games opportunities and new regions, following the example of Victoria in Australia. And I think that's the thing. We thought there was a risk to the Commonwealth Games just going back and forth between the UK and Australia, because Australia have got a great track record in staging the Commonwealth Games.
Australia, on the surface, seemed like a really good bet, didn't it? Great track record: Sydney 2000, Melbourne 2006, Gold Coast 2018, and of course the Olympics going to Brisbane in 2032. And I thought the Commonwealth Games were actually in a decent place because I really felt that Birmingham reinvigorated the Games. I think it was a huge success, wasn't it, in Birmingham? The stadium was fantastic. The ceremonies were wonderful. We saw some terrific sport and the city really came alive. And I think anyone that was in Birmingham for the Commonwealth Games would have thought, you know what, we should look to try and bring this event to our region, our city. It was, as I said, a huge success. Victoria had a different plan than Birmingham. Birmingham's Games was relatively compact. It was cost efficient. They didn't, for example, build an athletes' village. They used the velodrome in London as opposed to building one themselves. And remember, Birmingham themselves stepped in at short notice and did a terrific job after Durban pulled out.
And of course, Birmingham, as you say, used those 3 campuses of Birmingham University instead of building an athletes' village. Glasgow 2014, they followed in London 2012's footsteps by regenerating a part of the city. I think it was in Dalmarnock, a 94-acre site, a brownfield site, has been turned into housing and has regenerated the east end of Glasgow. We've seen the benefits of the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park and the legacy there after London 2012. So there are different ways of doing it. But what I think is interesting is that Victoria and the Commonwealth Games Federation came up with this new way of staging the Games, and they've had these discussions. But if you look at that statement from the CGF, they're saying, well, you added loads of other things and now you're saying it's costing more. It doesn't seem like they've had much of a conversation at all before this literally pulling the plug announcement. So 5 years was how long it took Birmingham to step in for Durban, as you said. 3 years this time? What on earth is going to happen now?
Well, obviously, we've only had this breaking news in the last few minutes, but the obvious choice for me would appear to be London. I mean, Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, everything virtually is there to host the Commonwealth Games. The London Stadium is there. We know that it can convert relatively easily to be a terrific athletics venue. We know the aquatic centres there wouldn't be the size it was in 2012, of course, but there would still be, the pools there for diving and swimming. And, of course, room for spectators. The velodrome is there as well. We know the hockey centre's there. XL Centre is pretty close. And then we could tap into some of those other venues across London as well. Things like Earls Court, Wembley Arena, the O2.
And, of course, London hasn't actually ever staged the Commonwealth Games. Incredibly, Scotland's done it 3 times, Edinburgh twice, Glasgow 2014, as you say, Cardiff only once, England, Manchester and Birmingham last year, as you say. So it is possible. Also, the way of looking at it is that Glasgow's about to stage the Cycling World Championships, as we've heard on Anything But Footy before, in our last episode and in Great British Bosses. It's 13 World Championships, 8,000 riders. That's more than the 6,000 athletes were at Birmingham last year for the Commonwealth Games. So 190 world champions will be crowned in this Cycling World Championships across Scotland from the 3rd to the 13th of August. That's actually bigger than the Commonwealth Games of 2014. So they don't have an athletes' village. They're using hotels. They're using different locations. Is that a new way of potentially someone stepping in and going, we can actually do this in 3 years?
Essentially, I feel we could just dust off a slightly scaled down version of 2012. So London would seem to be a candidate. If England wanted to step in and host again, that would, of course, be two hosts, Birmingham and then London in a row. It would, of course, mean coming back to the UK as well after Glasgow in 2014. The other option, and we've spoken about this on the podcast before, is this idea of a Commonwealth Games festival across the globe, where you'd have like the netball in Australia, rugby sevens in New Zealand, for example, cricket in India, athletics in London, gymnastics in Canada, and maybe giving some of the smaller Commonwealth Games nations an opportunity to host events. As I said, we've only heard this breaking news in the last few minutes. Those would be the two solutions I would offer right now.
And I think the other thing to think about, Michael, is not just about the people who are staging it and what could happen, but what about the athletes? They want some certainty as well. This sporting event is often seen as a stepping stone for the Olympics and Paralympics. Remember in Birmingham, that brilliant 10,000 metre victory from Ailish McColgan. I think it was your sporting highlight of 2022 when she won in the Alexander Stadium. That puts her in a place ahead of these World Athletics Championships this year, ahead of the Olympics in Paris next year. It allows people like Duncan Scott, the great British swimmer and world and Olympic champion, to represent Scotland, which you don't get many opportunities to do in the world of swimming. Team Scotland had its most successful Commonwealth Games in Birmingham with 13 golds and 51 medals. That was their most successful outside of a Games in Scotland. And on that, we've had a statement from Team Scotland in the last few minutes as well, reacting to this breaking news, saying they are shocked to learn about the withdrawal of the Victorian government's decision for the Commonwealth Games in 2026. Our preparations are well underway for selecting, preparing and sending a team to Australia in 3 years' time. This is the only opportunity for many athletes to compete under the Scottish flag, and we know how much that means to them. We share the disappointment with the announcement and recognise the uncertainty it creates for all parties. We'll now take time to assess its implications and await further news from the Commonwealth Games Federation. So that's the realisation, that's the outcome, that's the fallout from this decision by the Victorian government and the ramifications that it has right across the globe, and to be honest, for the Commonwealth Games as well. We're approaching 100 years of the Commonwealth Games. It was first staged in Hamilton in Canada in 1930. It looks unlikely at the moment that it's going to make the centenary. You can have your say. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you on social media at AnythingButF on Twitter. We're on Instagram at AnythingButFooty and on Facebook and on Threads. Or you can contact us via our website, anythingbutfooty.com.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.